So I actually have about 3 videos worth of content that I had recorded, and then the morning after I recorded that was the Nashville shooting.
We are coming on the air with breaking news right now. At least 3 children are reported dead after a shooting at Covenant School, a private Christian school in Nashville.
I just felt weird releasing videos about trans stuff without talking about what happened in Nashville. I grew up in Tennessee. I was in Memphis, but I also was a Presbyterian. And so as soon as I saw that, I was just like, And then the extra news came out that this person was identifying as a trans man.
A lot of new information confirming that the shooter in this case was 28-year-old Audrey Hale, a former student, identifies as transgender, and that's key to this investigation, they say, as a possible motive.
It's horrible that these things are happening. It should have nothing to do with like who they are, because who they are doesn't really matter. This small little part of it, people have blown into such huge proportions.
A deranged and indoctrinated girl murdered 6 Christians, 3 of them young children, as part of her own satanic transgender crusade.
I don't think that that has anything really to do with anything, because there are no excuses why you would go into an elementary school and do what this person did. It's really sick. These children did nothing to you. I hate that every time this happens, it becomes this political battle of guns versus Democrats.
We're not here. I'm talking about gun violence.
You know, there's never been.
I'm talking about gun
in a
violence.
school that allows teachers to carry.
Carry guns? You think more guns lead to more death?
I really hate that every time a tragedy happens, so many people have to step up to the line to say, I was right or you were wrong. Why can't we just acknowledge it was a tragedy and it's really sad, and acknowledge the victims and the victims' families? Because I know how much people suffer when they lose their children. I've seen it firsthand. And I know a lot of people don't know how that actually is. But I've been sitting right next to that person, and that was hard enough. And she is the strongest person I know. And if somebody had come into that situation and tried to make his death something political so you could fight for your guns or fight against trans people or fight for trans kids, I would have been so pissed. Because tragedy happens, and we need to come together and acknowledge that that tragedy is a tragedy. We don't need to be pointing fingers. There was a sick individual who did this thing, and there are more people, including that individual's family, who are suffering, who are sad, who lost people. And everybody seems to lose sight of that. It's all just on the news, it's on Twitter, like, so you can hide behind your screens and not feel it. What happened to people actually feeling things other than anger and being defensive and turning somebody else's situation into your situation? This has nothing to do with you.
That news has already prompted some attacks against the trans community.
How dare you turn this into your agenda? The people who watched my first video, and the whole point was you don't take away from other people. That was the point. That's why I made that video, because it was all about somebody taking away from. And The fact that every time this happens, people take away from it and they make it about themselves. They make it about their ideology and some stupid freaking crap to just prove other people wrong. It's sick. It is sick. We are living in a sick world. Go to a parents of murdered children meeting and see if you're gonna walk out of that meeting saying, I want my guns, which I'm not anti-gun, I'm just telling you. Is that gonna be the first thing you think of? Or we gotta take down the Republicans. It's about people. When did we lose sight of people? You can at least open your eyes and have empathy. And I think that is the issue, is people are losing empathy. You should watch this stuff and cry. That's empathy. I don't know when everybody became so apathetic.
Sociopaths lack empathy. Typically, they do not feel any remorse or guilt, as they have trouble understanding other people's emotions.
There's so many assumptions being made. This person was 28. When did they want to start transitioning? I kind of feel like it feels like it was recent. The way that I've just seen the story, because this person was still dressing as a girl and everything at home, but when going out of the home was dressing as a boy. So I don't feel like this was, hey, I'm like really young and I feel like I'm transgender. I think this was, hey, I've been on TikTok too many times and I obviously have a mental illness, and everybody is telling us the cure for mental illness right now is to transition, especially if you're a woman, then you should become a man.
So many people have been super pissed about the reporting that they've seen from just many different...
So this says Audrey Hale was rejected by her Christian parents who couldn't accept she was gay and trans. So was she gay or was she trans? See, this is where it's so freaking spun in such stupid ways. And I'm like extra mad because she, and I will not use a killer's preferred pronouns, like fuck that no. She has, at a time where we're already having so many issues with this trans stuff, she had to come out here and do this horrendous, awful thing. And then on top of it, the focus was that she was identifying as a he. How dare she go into a safe space for children and do what she did? Because I do not believe this person represents the trans community in any sort of way, and I hate that this is the headlines. I hate that it literally says Christian parents who couldn't accept she was gay and trans. So we're headlines like, oh, we're like kind of anti-Christian because we're showing that they're bigoted or something. Because you can be Christian, you can accept your children. Seen it happen. And then the whole gay and trans, like, what does that even mean? That means that they don't even know what she was. Obviously, nobody even knew who this person was. That you're saying gay and trans? No. Are you acknowledging that she was male and she was attracted to men?
What has been really disheartening for me is to see so many headlines with just salacious titles and all this stuff, and then you get to the bulk of the article and it's just information.
Thank you.
That just general information, objective truths about this case that should just be published as is, and the headline should just be, here's some more facts about Audrey Hale. That's really what the headline should be, but instead we're getting all these different clearly spun language choices within the journalism on this subject in particular. So there were Several targets, I guess, discussed, including targeting her mother and father, who I believe she lived with in what they now say is a $700,000 Nashville property. And
so this is not a person connected to reality. And yeah, 28 years old, you're still living with your parents. This has nothing to do with being trans. I do not feel that this has anything to do with any extreme ideology. If her parents did not agree with her choices in life, she would not be living in their $700,000 house.
It's also been announced through the Daily Mail that Audrey was diagnosed with autism, which, if you follow any of the conversations we have surrounding transgender,
everybody has autism today. This is where self-diagnosis is so dangerous. I can't imagine how hurtful that would be to hear, for one thing, if you actually are autistic, or if you have like a child who's autistic and that they are not doing violent things. And I don't think that we should, it's just like the trans thing, like that annoys me just as much. Stop making up that it's about these specific things about them, because there are so many people that have these things that don't do this. No, this person did this because there's one in however many who are just like not right, and we need to make sure that they are being looked out for. Parents need to be more aware of getting their children mental care. I think that's incredibly important. Although mental health experts today are kind of horrible.
not only are we seeing a major spike in young women identifying as transgender, non-binary, genderqueer, but these women also tend to have other, be it psychiatric issues or
Sure, yes.
what is the word? Diagnoses. And one of those prevalent diagnoses is autism. So
Because that's the new diagnoses. It's hysteria, right? I mean, how long ago was that when hysteria was a thing? Was that 60s, 50s, 40s? In 1980, hysteria was removed from the American Psychiatric Association's DSM, which had included hysteria as a mental disorder from its second publication in 1968. Not that long ago. Maybe these women are just hysterical. And hot, which, you know, part of it was hysterectomies, so that's what they're going for, right?
in every case, we try to focus on the background of the shooter. Why should we not point out something that is a hot topic of conversation right now, and that is the gender identity that Audrey Hale chose to express publicly on the internet with he, him pronouns and that separate alias, Aiden. Why should we not be able to talk about that? And the implication in this article is that maybe we should keep it hush-hush on the gender identity stuff, or maybe not put as much of a focus on it, because I guess they believe these issues exist without the gender identity being,
because it's going to be weaponized. If this was like 15 years ago and this has happened, I would have actually listened to this. I would have been like, okay, maybe she actually was trans and maybe this was a trans issue. The reason to not put this out as the main subject is because right now we're all dealing with such different political beliefs, and for some stupid ass reason, trans stuff has like become the center of it, which is insane because the amount of transgender people in reality is 0.01%. So it should not be an issue at all, and you trans activists are making everything worse. So you probably don't even actually know somebody who's trans, so sit down, stop talking, because you're making this a hot topic. You are the reason why everybody's paying attention to this part of this. Stop making this political, because that's not helping anything. I know we all want to find a reason why these things happen. Can we please agree that when it comes to children and children's lives and their safety, that we are not divided?